Hey everyone, we are back with another episode of My Conversation Corner, where we talk about the struggle that goes into living your life and doing the things that help you succeed. Make sure you guys follow us on my social medias at My Conversation Corner on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Here today with my man Yousef Blake, the
Yep.
the producer. Time producer in the game, man. So let's
Man,
get to it, man. You listen. You've been doing a lot of things, and I've been watching you on TikTok, and I've been watching you do your thing. And I think, and you got a few things on the works that I'm definitely gonna work together on. So
yeah.
let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about a little bit your beginnings into music because everyone has their story, everyone has their beginnings, and I just want to get into it and see where you started, and then the struggles that came along with it. So where did you start this whole thing?
So I guess I'll start it here. So I've always been very creative, like since a child. Um, I've always been creative. I actually started off on the visual side of things,
Okay.
painting, drawing, sculpturing. And then I happened to go to high school to a high school that's predominantly known for its music academy. That
Okay.
I like to say that I wasn't even in.
Oh.
Because that I think that's a big component of all of this. Is that even to get into that high school, you had to audition in terms of trying to get into the music academy.
Got it.
I was in a whole different academy that didn't even pretty much matter to the school because most of the funding was coming from the music academy in terms of that consisting of actors, theater kids, singers, dancers, everything performance basically was coming from the music academy.
Okay.
Um, so I went there, but I think this all starts with being gifted with a gift of communication, I think.
All right.
I think that's always been one of the things that I've kind of been gifted at is communicating and networking with people.
Mhm.
I think because of that ability and because of my openness to and curiosity, I'll say,
Mhm.
because of my curiosity to want to know and want to learn and like being thrown into like the sea of just creativity, it was like one of those things where it was like, all right, this is the thing. So then I start because during that time in high school, you had crump dancing that was taking off, you
Mhm.
had jerking that was taking off, and a lot of that stuff was coming from the school I went to.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it was a lot of the people from the school that was starting those movements and stuff.
Mhm.
So I think just being around and being immersed in the culture and dealing with a bunch of different people, I started finding myself networking with everyone. I never was married to any specific group of people. Um and long story, well, I guess we got the time for the long
Yeah,
story.
we got the time, man.
so I guess what ended up happening was just out of all of that, I started finding myself writing poetry, then poetry became songwriting, and then my stepdad actually used to produce. So
Okay.
he started teaching me how to produce in the program that he used to use called Reason by Propeller Head. And I didn't understand it at first because that was around like version 3, and I still kept just like doing writing stuff.
Mhm.
And then what ended up happening was I think we ended up before all of that, I guess you could say I also had a hip hop group.
Okay.
So
Hip hop group.
yeah, like we was
Okay.
doing like some rapping, singing and stuff too. But I had a group and pretty much actually like it's kind of interesting how I met the different people that were a part. Like the dude that one of my boys that was basically supposed to be like the pianist in the group. Like we would be on the bus because I would take the school bus to get to Hamilton.
Mhm.
And like that's how me and him met, like, and another friend who actually was like one of the main crumpers and stuff like too. So we all like knew each other. I knew the dude, his name was Donald, because me and him grew up together, like going to like some of the same like I guess you could say like after school programs and stuff like that.
Right.
So like I knew him, then I was introduced to Chris through him because we all were getting on the bus together.
Mhm.
Chris was like a concert pianist. His dad is actually Michael Nash from Rolls Royce, the group Rolls Royce. So
Okay.
he actually ended up mentoring us. And when we started our group, and he sat us down at a table and taught us publishing and everything like that. So that's one
You kind
aspect.
of had the inside track off from the beginning.
Kind of not, because I feel like the story gets more in depth. Like I had some insight, but also because I'm not coming from a traditional like music playing background, it
Mhm.
was a little bit different in terms of like I think in terms of what people could offer in terms of their knowledge base, because that's on a live, like when we think about a group like Rolls Royce, that's like live playing.
Mhm.
That's like all live band, everything, so Chris that was in our group was a concert pianist because obviously he grew up playing piano and stuff because his dad also is the lead, like he's the pianist for Rolls Royce,
Right,
the
right.
keyboardist and everything. But that's another aspect I'll get into. Um then I met, I guess, one of the main guys in a cipher at Hamilton. He
Okay.
was he was singing something. I jumped in to the cipher, started singing with him, and that's how me and him got cool.
Okay.
And then another dude, like I can't even remember like how me and Jabril met, but I just was talking to people, man.
Hey,
I was
someone
just
networking, big
it,
networking, big networking.
yeah. So I was just talking to people. So long story short, we started like because I was the youngest out of everybody. It started off with like five of us because I also had like another member basically that I grew up with, that was because my thing was always like wanting to present as many dynamics as possible to
Mhm.
people so there would be nothing to turn people away.
Right.
Even if you didn't like me personally and you like one of us, that's good enough to
Right.
keep you coming back. So from a marketing standpoint, I've always thought about that like from a young age. I was always thinking like that. But a lot of times when you're thinking like that, it doesn't mean that that's inevitably what everyone else is gonna how everyone else is gonna think.
Right.
So we worked on this album and everything and got it mixed and mastered and everything. People started like I was speaking to people and everything. People started asking us like if we wanted to do some block party performances and and it was just it could have been really good because at the time I think we were really ahead of our time in terms of sonics
Mhm.
as well. Um, but it didn't end up working out. And I think that's a blessing in the same time at the same time as well, because it pushed me to like learn something else.
Okay.
To not lean on other people as well. Like not lean on other people and put so much energy into other people, but also start trying to take time to start developing myself. But that is still in process because I'm always thinking like from a I don't want to be like humane level, but I'm always thinking like we God made us basically to be in community. So
Right.
like in my head, I'm always thinking like it's it takes a village, like it really takes a village, I think, to make an artist or to be successful in what it is that you're trying to do. Like, and we even see that through social media, I think personally, like social media, the more you're able to get people um to join on the bandwagon of whatever you're doing, the more the algorithm shows
See,
love.
kind of pushes you, gives you like
Push push
propels you a little bit forward. Yeah.
so essentially it's the same thing in real life. Like when we think about it, like the more communal like you are, the more the faster you can go.
Right.
Like I think so.
And we were talking about yesterday, even when I was talking to Jella, we were talking about just having those communities when it comes to people. You're
Yeah,
able to, for one, you're able to get that push. Like, oh, I don't necessarily want to do it today, but this person is on my team. They want to like, well, let's get it done. Let's do this thing. I have a vision for it, and it's
yeah,
out there. And that was one of the things we were speaking on. It was like, yeah, that's what most people need. And if you get with the right group of people, then they will push you. You will push them, and it kind of you kind of like build up upon each other.
Yeah.
So it's
That
definitely a good thing.
so that is the truth. I totally agree with what you guys like said. Um I guess I'll turn it to this angle because I think while maybe at the time because of my how can I say my I might have took it harshly because of how I was redirected
Mm-hmm.
and how I felt like my time was wasted because I invested all this time into doing this project, producing all this music, and then we don't end up doing anything because we having personality clashes, or people are like, oh, I don't want to perform. Oh, it's my sister. You know, every excuse in the book. It's my sister's birthday. You know, like, oh, I can't do that. I'm unavailable. And I'm like, well, why we even do this project?
Yeah.
So
How we
that
get started.
was why we even start if we not gonna finish.
I've
So
had that happen many a time. Even before I was moving out here, we had an event where we were working on some project, and the person who was the producer of this whole thing just decided, all right, well, I'm going to LA. I'm like, well, how are we supposed to finish it if you in LA?
yeah,
But also, it was my push to decide to come out LA myself because it was like, all right, well, you out there, and then I kind of kept an eye on her on her Snapchat, and she's on this set, she's on that set. And I'm like, well, if she can do it,
I
I
could do
can
it
do
too.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But sometimes you need that like to like push you forward and fuel you like in that way. Um
So when when it comes to the music that you were writing with that group, you didn't do anything with it. You didn't like.
I'm gonna get into that because
Okay.
this is where so since I have been making music, like my stepdad would always like tell me like your music sounds like it could be on a soundtrack.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's dope, but how do I even go about doing any of that? So um funny enough, like what ended up happening pretty much like after we released that group album, a friend of mine, she used to work at a restaurant, and pretty much one of the guys that worked with her was working on a project that was going to be going straight to streaming on Amazon. And he heard our single from that project and was like, hey, and this was in 2013. And
Okay.
he was like, hey, I like that. I'm working on this dramedy called The Casting Couch. And you know, obviously kind of dumb.
Yeah. No, not dumb, but just like
Yeah, like
if you put the casting couch in Google in the wrong area, you put the wrong thing.
so
You
like
will be in trouble.
yeah, so I was like, oh, dope. Okay. I was like, well, he was like, well, I'm the music supervisor and I'm the composer. And that was basically like that was when music supervisor, hearing that word wasn't sexy at all. Like
Right.
now social media then made it like a thing, and now people think it's sexy when it's still
Yeah.
not. It's still not, but okay. Like, but okay. Like, you know, like having to do a lot of paperwork and stuff is definitely not sexy, but you know, there are some benefits to it. But
Yeah.
um so I was like, all right, cool. He said, I'm gonna use it. Obviously, there is no upfront payment. It will be gratis, which means basically, um, he said it will be gratis, like no no upfront payment, but you'll get some on the back end, basically.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Because like, you know, cue sheets and stuff will be done, and they have to register the songs basically
Got it.
for the film. They have to report it. So I was like, all right, cool. So next thing you know, I was like, all right, well, that was dope. I signed it, and then I was like, all right, here, because I was like, we aren't doing anything with this music. And then I kept doing what I was doing, which was basically like working with artists and, you know, just doing me.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't think anything else about sync at the time. And then I was on Twitter like trying to learn more about it, and I started networking with people, networking. And then I came into this website called Music X-Ray,
Mhm.
which you could connect with like different people like in different it, parts of music industry, where
Right.
you could submit your music and you basically would pay to submit. So there was a publisher on there, and I submitted another song from the album from there, like one of the songs that was like my favorite from the album. He ended up responding like right away and was like, I wanna pick this up. I would love to like have this to pitch for, film, television, and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. So um that ended up getting placed in a movie on Stars, basically called I believe it's called Ride. No, wait. Yeah. All Rise. Yeah, I'm forgetting the movie. But anyway, it was a Stars movie.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I hadn't even known. My stepdad heard it playing because he knew our music. He knows my music. So he came and got me. He paused the DVR and he was like, wait, I gotta show you something. It's like, I think I heard your music on the TV, like in this movie, but he was like, I'm not sure. So he came and got me, and I was like, all right, cool. So he played the scene, and I was like, that's for sure our song. That's my voice, that's his voice, and that's his voice. I was like, head scratch, like, where's my money though?
Where,
so so
where my change at?
I was like, where's my money though? Like, I was like, where's the money at? Like, I was like, it's in this movie. That definitely, I know from the first one that happened, I'm like, they at least said something, but obviously that was a direct situation versus like me giving this publisher the song and him working the record and stuff like that. So I knew that I wouldn't be the point of contact, but he would. But I'm like, I didn't at least get notified or anything in
Right,
regard. Oh, the movie is called Ride, not
right,
Rise. Ride.
right.
And I was like, all right. So I started reaching out. Let me reach out, see what's happening. No response, no response. So I talked to my stepdad. I'm like, yo, this guy is not responding. What's going on? So he hooked me up with a friend that was like that's an entertainment judge and had me contact him.
Right.
And I started speaking to him and he was like, "Well, I'm actually like a judge. There's nothing that I can personally do, but let me hook you in with my go-to attorney who's in entertainment,
Right.
like my friend." So she ended up talking to me, telling me what to do. And I guess it was something like where the guy basically stopped using the initial email that that me and him initially like started the relationship on.
Huh?
And I had contacted him on LinkedIn. It was like, hey, blah blah blah. I spoke with my attorney, blah blah blah. You need like what's happening? Like I didn't hear anything. So then he came up with the money real fast and was like, hey, oh, I was actually planning on contacting you, blah blah blah
Uh,
blah. So I was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay. I was like, all right.
yeah. You better
So
come up with that money.
so so I was like, all right. So then after that experience, I kept kind of like I've always been like an underdog person, like always rooting for the underdog because I feel like I am the underdog as well. But I was like, well, how can I learn more about this? So I kept trying to educate and work with and work in collaboration with different people. And I still wasn't fully taking it as serious as I could be because I still was working with artists and trying to develop artists and like work in that capacity. And then obviously when you're working with independent artists, it's like you kind of fall into I don't want to say every independent artist, but sometimes when you're working with an artist like personally, like and they're strictly just working with you trying to build, like you end up finding yourself doing a bunch of other things that you may not even want to do. So you might end up falling into doing some stuff that maybe a manager would do because you want the music to be pushed forward because at the end of the day, if the like you don't gain anything if the music is not going anywhere.
Right.
Like
Yep.
you as a producer, unless you're releasing your own albums and stuff like that, you are solely like reliant on artists to do things.
Right.
And I kind of just was like, I can't do this like anymore. I don't want to do it. I mean, I'm like, I could rap, I could sing, I could do all these different things. So I'm like, I don't really want to do that anymore. So um I think and I'm gonna fast forward just so I don't stay in this space, but basically, because I think this is a good build of where obviously there were other things, but I want to get to the point of where I think things started kind of picking up.
Right.
So in 2020, during the pandemic, I was a part of a songwriting program,
Okay.
and pretty much they taught us how to they taught us like I want to say they taught us the foundations of how to create music for like for these opportunities,
Got it.
whether it was film, like for sync basically. And sync is short for synchronization basically, which means when your music is synced to picture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I at that time, like during that time, obviously we all inside.
And had
So
nothing, nowhere to go, nothing to do.
So I once again took the same skill of like I once again took the same skill of all that networking, and I ended up getting myself into like maybe 80 different collaborations in this program.
Jesus.
Like some of them still not finished to this day, and some probably won't be finished because it was just like sharpening, like just sharpening the skill set. But some of like I guess what you'll realize after a while is like some stuff doesn't need to be returned to if it wasn't like the cream of the crop kind
Right.
of thing. So it's kind of like just let it go. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to like put all that energy into a song that isn't going anywhere fast
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. So and
Sometimes
obviously
those things come back around years down the line or figure it out, but usually you just like
true,
if
true,
it's there, we'll sit it
true.
there for a moment and let it sit.
Yeah, so a lot of the good stuff got finished, but some of that stuff it was just like I kind of got overwhelmed because it was just way too much, and I'm not afraid to say that. But um, during that time, I ended up meeting my partner
Mm-hmm.
because through this program, but also I ended up meeting Jasmine, and we like I still have a bunch of collaborations and everything from that program, and me and her started collaborating.
Right.
But also after finishing that program, I had a direct opportunity to no. After that program, I basically was like, "Hey, what do I do next?" Because I'm like, we have this information. What do I do with it?
Right.
Now, I'm not coming from a traditional like background of like being a like session musician or I produce, I could play, I could do some stuff, but I mainly produce and I mainly write. So I was like, what do I do with this stuff now that I know this?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I've been on the track to making some catalog, but I don't know what my next steps outside of, pitching to other people and stuff are. So I was talking to my godmother and she was like, well, speak to your music mentor. And I was just like, oh, I don't really have any music mentors on this side still. I'm like, on this side of the industry, because I'm still got this thing in my ear ringing about you should like get into like doing like music for soundtracks and video games and all this stuff. So I'm like, well, I don't really know. So, but that buzzword of music supervisor was still in my ear. And it just so happened that I had met somebody, once again, networking, because obviously I do a lot of things. I was doing some photography for a friend at one of his events in 2019. He asked me to like take some photos for him, like because he's a visual artist. So at this event, I just started. I was there to take photos for him, but I just ended up taking photos of the whole event. Nobody asked me to or anything. I just was started walking around and just was like, sure, I could use some more photos. Like,
Right.
so,
Right.
um, so the guy who actually was throwing this event came up to me and was me it started a conversation, and then we started talking about like what we did and whatnot, and I was like, all right, dope. I'm actually like my main thing is I'm actually a music producer and writer and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So he was like, well, I'm actually my main thing is actually I'm a music supervisor. And this was back in 2019.
Right,
This
right,
was
right.
2019. So when my godmother said that, I was like, well, I don't know too many people, but I'm gonna take a chance. So I was like, I reached back out and I called that dude, and I don't remember if he answered right away or if he might have like texted me and was like, hey, I'm gonna give you a call back later. So I think he might have been like, let me give you a call back later.
And
So he
that's what happens. People
so
get
he
people get busy, bro.
but he did call me back.
Okay.
So he ended up calling me back and was like, hey, like, what's up? Like, it's been a minute, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, hey man, like I finished this program, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to figure out, I want to do more. I remember you saying you're a music supervisor, and I'm just trying to figure out like where to go from now. Cause I have this knowledge. I understand this stuff. Like obviously I learned publishing at a young age as well. So I'm like, I don't know where to go from this point. So he was instantly was like, I want to integrate you into what I'm doing. So that basically ended up turning into like him bringing me on the licensing team for some of his projects. And one of the shows was basically the HBO Max series The Hype with
Oh,
Offset.
I've heard that. I've heard that. I haven't watched it. I think I've heard some good things about it, but I haven't seen it myself.
So it's like urban like clothing, like fashion and stuff, but Offset was one of the judges basically.
Okay.
So I ended up working on the licensing team. During that time, me and Jasmine were collaborating and doing a bunch of stuff. So I didn't get paid from that opportunity, but basically what he was willing to do was put my music in front on what was being sent to the editors and put our music in front, and basically a bunch of our stuff started getting picked up
Oh,
for the show.
right.
That was basically how we were making the money, like because our stuff was getting placed. During that time, we didn't really understand what, or we knew about music agencies, music licensing agencies, but we didn't really understand until we was like, we were pitching other people's music too. And it was like, wait, and we were scoping out, seeing what other people were doing. And we were like, wait, this is actually a thing. Like we were like, wait, we need to actually make this a thing because people are actually making money from this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we ended up like actually like formalizing it and like starting the business, which is called the Sounds Unique Collective and also known as the Sync Collective.
Plug them. Plug your stuff, man. Plug it.
Uh, so we started that, and we kind of jumped in right away, like basically with the business. Like
Yeah.
because we basically right away like had clients in terms of like artists, because we had already worked with a lot of artists and we're collaborating and writing and producing for people, but then also friends and stuff like were giving us music and stuff. So we were like, let's actually make this a structure, entity, a corporation thing. Let's
And
form it.
I know it's like closely connected to what you're doing now, and yes,
Yeah.
as well. So like I want people to hear about that as well because that's one of those things. It's like I know there's people out there who are looking to get to the next level or looking to that next opportunity. And you definitely have that setup for them. So like, go what how's that? What tell me about your showcase? What's going on with that?
Uh oh, so the idea that's being developed.
Yeah, the ideas. Go ahead, man. Let's go get
So
the ideas out there.
we won't throw that out there, but there's something very nice being developed that we
Right,
want to spotlight and highlight artists in a way where it's not a competitive thing. We want to actually showcase artists, but also show the life cycle of how things work, because us working on the business and we've had the opportunity to see a lot of things, but we see where gaps are in terms of the process. And like
right.
I'll go back to that tagline of what I was saying. It takes a village to raise an artist.
Yep.
Like it takes community to build an artist when we think about it. And I think this is one of those things where we really want to like put it forth in a way to actually do that.
Right.
So that is in development. You guys
Yeah,
will hear about
yeah,
that soon.
we gonna yep,
We gonna circle the block back
we gonna circle the block.
when the idea is actually like solidified.
All right, so tell
But
me, so much. I know you have been working with a lot of people. So are any notable names you got on your list?
all right, so basically, what I'll say is that the creative is what introduced us to music licensing.
Right.
That's how we got into it. Um, but the creative also, like during that time, because of our knowledge on the music business, it created a lot of opportunity for us because of working on that show, and then my name getting referred and our names getting referred to different things. So I ended up working in trailers after that because
Yeah.
my name got referred, and that was I think one of the best experiences I had in terms of, how can I say, it sharpened my ear as a producer, even though I wasn't doing production at the particular job, because of my consumption of music, of all types of music, but also because we had all the labels, all the publishers, all the third party agency music, like agencies like ourselves. We had all the music coming through from different people.
Mhm.
We were going to lunches constantly. People were taking us to lunches, inviting us places, because obviously they want their music used in whatever we're working on.
Right,
So
right.
I was able to meet a lot of people and just get my network up to a point where it was like, oh wow, like, so during those lunches, a lot of times people would ask me what else do I do, and
Mhm.
then now it turned into a conversation of being like, oh, well, I'm actually a composer. Oh, I'm actually a songwriter. Oh, sometimes I would say I actually own a music licensing agency, but I got to a point where I stopped saying that because I was like, maybe it's conflictional, like being, you know, from my
Yeah,
positioning. So I
yeah.
was just like, all right, maybe I need to like chill on that. But um that opportunity created a lot of, I guess, win for us, because now I could still reach back out to those contacts, and even if they're not at the same companies and stuff that I met them at, they know me by my name, they know me like in
Yeah.
person, So while that was happening, my business partner also went and was working at another company. So like we were able to kind of bring all those things together, and then we just like hit the ground running. So we've had our stuff on rap shit, we've had our stuff on Life and Beth, we've had our stuff on Grand Crew, we've worked with Netflix, we've worked with uh NBC Universal, we've worked with Riot Games. We've worked with Fortnite. We've worked with a lot of different companies and whatnot. CW, All American stuff.
Okay.
Um,
My mom loves that show.
and, and counting. So I think it's kind of been like a grassroots movement for us too. But the difference is that we jumped in right away. Like we had something right away to kind of get us going. Um, and that's kind of been nonstop. So as we continue to build and expanding, like this last year, we've specifically started because every media is different, I'll say. So we predominantly have worked in TV, film, episodic stuff, and video games, and
Okay.
a little podcast stuff, but not really. Um, and those are all great, but we started kind of noticing, like, because we dived in so fast with what we were doing, we started realizing, and because I worked in trailers, we started realizing where the big money was in terms of this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that on the TV and film or episodic side there's not a lot of money, because there is. It's just the shows, the right shows. You gotta fish out the right shows. But um
There's a lot of shows you only get like one season and it's done for, and you got a little money, but it didn't turn into what you thought it was going to be. You got to be like selective about what you pick.
Yeah, so then we started kind of like focusing our attention on like advertisement. Because advertisement in terms of media, there's not only multiple ways to get paid, but those advertising basically pays the most. So
Okay.
you have people making six figures off of one placement,
Wow.
like six figures. Like, you know, think of like a Giorgio Armani or whatever it is, or if it's a BMW or Genesis, like we're talking 5 and 6 figure placements. So we realize like, all right, we need to kind of shift our attention to kind of like we need to shift our attention on not just doing TV and film stuff, but we really need to start diving into like finding out who the playmakers are in this other space, which is different from TV and film. And just like you go to podcasting, it's gonna be different. If you go in video games, it's different who you're dealing with. Like you're not dealing with all of the same people across every media. So it's like a whole new set of people that you have to, but because we have credibility and we understand the music business, we are properly trained in this. We know how to facilitate contracts and do all of that stuff. We
Mhm.
also have experience in music supervision because I've also uh worked on music clearance songs for projects, as
Mhm.
well as my partner has as well. So you know, we kind of well rounded, a lot of times when people meet us, they're like, "Dang, like it's hard." Like people are like, "Yo, it's crazy that you guys are doing three different things. Like you guys are doing music licensing, you're you guys are well versed in terms of music supervision, but also you guys are also creatives in this.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like we're doing the trifecta of it. And a lot of times people are like, you got people barely doing one of those things good.
Really?
Yeah, it's you'll be surprised like what people don't know. Like what
Yeah.
people don't like the information that because a lot of times like people, how can I say, like in entertainment, as you would know, a lot of it is like
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
you know.
Because
Like
if you don't know
sometimes,
people, sometimes you can't even get an opportunity to talk to anybody if you don't know anybody.
so sometimes like the people getting these jobs don't know what the hell they doing, to be honest. And but it's because who they know, and
Yep.
then they hire people to be on their team that end up being people that know.
Yep.
So so now you got
That is the industry in a nutshell, man.
yeah, so it's kind of like, and I'm not bad mouthing it, get it how you get it, like whatever, but that's just the reality of it a lot of
Yeah.
times. So because it's so there ends up being like I won't even go to into that, but yeah, but it ends up being this thing where now it's like, okay, there's these projects out here, and it's just like, all right, well, what we gonna turn to do? So yeah, so I think that's really what we started trying to do this last year is really turn our attention to doing and focusing more on advertisements and building relationships in that space. Um because we're like let's be where like not only is it about the money, but I think having that brand recognition as an artist can take you far.
Yep.
It's just like when people see the scene and hear the song, and then they go to Shazam your song to find out who you are. Now you're getting that cross pollination of people trying to like, not only are you getting paid from your music being in that scene from the license, but now you done like created fans based off these songs. So I think the dope thing about music licensing is that it could change the trajectory of an artist's career
Yep.
without the traditional like, oh, I gotta go on tour, or
Yeah,
oh
you've seen that. I mean, you see that a lot in TikTok because and there was
yeah.
a period of time even between in the beginning of COVID and like now where you'll see songs and they're on TikTok and you get the 10 to 15 or 30 seconds of the song and everybody like, oh, this shit is hot, it rocks. And then
Mhm.
it's the rest of the song, and sometimes it's like, this
What
same song? Like,
yeah.
what happened
And
to the rest of the song? This part was good, but like what happened to the rest of it?
literally that's what Russ basically had a whole interview conversation about in regards to TikTok. He was like, when these people like, because you're only getting so much, he was like, it's of the clip of the song, and they're gonna of course go to the best part. They're
Right.
gonna go to the best part of the song, basically. And then when you actually go and you listen to it, it's like, wait, what? Like,
Mhm.
so it's funny that you bring that up because I remember that interview with Russ, like basically like saying, like, like, and I really believe in that. I think you really gotta put your reps in.
Mhm.
You gotta put your reps in. And it's great to catapult your career like off of one song and one
But
opportunity.
is it sustainable is the question.
Is it sustainable, but can you do that again?
Right.
And if you haven't been putting your reps in, it's kind of like it was just by chance.
Yeah, you kind
Like
of hit,
verse,
you kind of fall into that one hit wonder realm of music, and it's like you don't want that. You want to be a consistent a person who's going to be around for at least 2 or 3 cycles of music,
yeah,
2 or 3
yeah.
albums.
And it's kind of hard to even call that a one hit wonder because it's like if you only getting 30 seconds on TikTok, but nobody's actually going to stream the song, it's like, is it even a one hit wonder for real? Like
That's true. That's true.
that part, because it's like if nobody's going to stream the song, they're only using it for this part of the clip in their video. Like it's like, oh, this is trash. Like,
And you've seen a lot of music industry, like music people come and go because of all right. Here's my one. This is my song, and this
yeah,
little part of the clip is nice. Like this, I'm talking about there. I know there are a few songs that I was using. I was like, oh, this gonna be hot, and then I
yeah.
never hear from them again.
But you know who I think is a great example of that is like Armani White with black t-shirt Billie Eilish. Dun, dun.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because he popped off from TikTok. And I think another wave of people who took off from, I guess, social media too. I think there's a lot of comedians that like really like came out of like TikTok, like
Yeah.
DC Young Fly,
Yep.
Drewski, even the dude, even the French guy who just be like this. He don't even speak in his
I didn't
videos.
even say anything. I
Like,
don't that
and he,
like I don't want to hate, right? I'm not a hater, right? But
but
that's
that
like,
dude,
how you blow up off of that, man? That's crazy how you blow up off of that.
bro, like didn't even
Or
say anything.
what's the other
Did,
one? Got the emotional damage. It's like, what else do you do? Like, and I've seen some of his other videos, but that's his hot thing. That's the thing that got him that blew him up. So you got to
but
kind of have something to go along with all the things.
But I think that's another thing, another testament to it is that like what we find is that a lot of the artists that may have been popping like at certain times, now they don't want to get with the times in terms of social media stuff. They're not from that era. They're from the Tumblr era or from the Dat Piffs era, and they don't want to
Involved.
do all that.
Yep.
And like, and I get it, but I feel like also, if you want to go to that next tier and that next level, you gotta kind of conform to those things in order. And I feel like that's why I like Lil Russell, because I feel like Lil Russell he basically has, I don't know much of Lil Russell's music. I'm gonna just say that right off the bat. But him as like bringing it together as a content creator, that also in him understanding the landscape of where we are today and utilizing that to catapult his music career, I think is great. Because it's not just about, when we talk about building a brand, it's not just about the music. Music is a portion of building the brand. Like it's a portion of the brand, but it's not the full entire business. You
Right.
know, like once you start, like the music is a vehicle that can open up multiple things.
Right.
So now it's like, hey, now you're doing brand partnerships. The music opened the door for that, but that's not even about the music for real. Like that's about selling somebody else's product.
Right.
Like,
And I
but
said not to cut you off, but like I saw that, and when it comes to one specific song that everyone's been listening to, everybody's been rocking, everybody's listening or put up to the Super Bowl to hear, and it's like one person's name has been screamed across the United States and the rest of the world just to sell mustard, my nigga. Like that's where you see that it can be a song, but it can turn into product placement, and it can turn into all these other things that will allow you to make more money off of it,
Super happy.
off of
Super
one.
happy. Super happy for DJ Mustard for that though.
And he's almost like connected to me. Like I got my peoples know his peoples. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. So like yeah, when it comes to the industry and how they connect, you have to just find those connections and run with them, because if you don't, then you kind of like going to be left in the dust.
But then too, it's like the dope thing is like, I think the other thing is I feel like us, you know what I mean by that?
Hmm?
We set the tone for the culture.
Always have always done that. Have been
So
doing it forever.
you know, like before like hip hop wasn't a big thing. Now hip hop is in everything.
Right.
In everything, every genre, like you'll hear hip hop being used if it's not from some drums patterns, if it's some elements exist in every genre of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like it's a great time in music right now.
Yeah.
Because right now we're, you know, Beyonce did the whole country album,
Oh
Shaboot,
yeah, yeah. I
all of
see.
this.
She's trying to step in on Taylor Swift's little toes. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan, but I like her stepping on her little toes a little bit, showing her like, listen, I can step over there with you. I can step.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like in music, like it's a great time because now, but also the other thing I want to highlight too is that we, how can I say, we've been at the forefront of a lot of the genres that may not look like us
Mm-hmm.
for a long time
Mm-hmm.
prior to them being popular,
Yeah.
but just don't get the just due credit for it a lot of times. So like that's, I think that's also what why it's a dope time, because now not only are there artists that look like us being highlighted, but also we're mixing it with hip hop and different things as well. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
All right, so I do got a question, because I know that the industry is different than it was before a little bit.
you
Even from
mean
my side, I was talking to Jello about the same thing, where it's like the industry has changed because of COVID and because of the strikes, and because I don't know how that affected you, but I want to know what would you tell people who are looking to like make their way into the music industry and make their way into either producing or writing, or like what would you tell them that would help them to either get started or to like make them get them to the next level?
honestly, I'm always about ownership. So I'm gonna always tell people create something that you really believe in. For
Got
real. Like create, don't try to just chase, like focus less time on chasing people, focus more time on building your own thing and you'll attract the people.
got it. Yep.
I feel like that's the most important thing. Like if God has given you a download to work on that idea and execute the idea, walk in obedience, and I feel like that will reign supreme at the end of the day, because you're getting that download for a reason. It's not happenstance. Like you're getting it for a reason to execute. So I
Yep.
think that's my main advice. Like execute on the idea, because you'll be surprised how many people will believe in that idea, and how many people aren't thinking the way you're thinking.
And listen, I wholeheartedly believe in that, because it's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to put in the effort, and then just invest in the thing that I believe in, and then let that thing happen. I'm gonna let this thing happen and see where it goes. But like listen, I'm
It's gonna
really,
work.
because you have been telling me I know you've been dropping some gems on people, and people need to hear some of the things you've been.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think if it's easy, everybody would do it. But the thing is like you can't expect it to come. You can't expect anything to fall in your lap like without the work.
Yep, and we were saying that. We were saying because I was even that's kind of like the model of what this whole thing is. It's like I want to talk about all the parts that people aren't talking about, the stuff that people don't actually say, okay, this is what I did and I struggled with this specific thing. And I want people to understand that it's not always all you got to do is this. It's no, there's going to be a struggle. There's going to be an uphill battle. There's going to be some time where you're going to look up and be like, when is my break going to come? It's like, no, you have to just put in the work and allow the chips fall where they fall.
Honestly, I mean, if we're talking about the struggle of it all, I mean, every everything, every good thing that I've gotten has come because of the struggle. Honestly, because things get worse before they get better. So
Yep.
it's like I got laid off from working in trailers during the strike.
Yeah, I
I
got
got
on.
laid off during the strike, but then that created opportunity. And I don't want to say it was easy because like right after getting laid off, I went and I did music clearance on a documentary with 300 Entertainment. Um and that was a documentary based on like the inception of house music, hip hop and house music rather. So that was a very interesting experience. It was good though, but it was an interesting experience because you'll be surprised at how a lot of those older records, and I can't even just say older records, like even some newer records, how many samples and stuff people were using during that time and weren't clearing them. So it's
Wow.
like all this music and you can't even clear it when you go to the labels because they didn't even clear it.
Wow.
The artist, like when well, and it's not I don't think it was the artist's job if they were signed. Like it was their team's
I didn't know to do something.
jobs to do it, but it wasn't getting cleared. And I don't think proper things were in place for it to be cleared. So it's just a bunch of good music that can't be licensed for real.
Right. And
So
we were talking about that. I was saying I wanted to do a series, and it was in your realm of work, but I want to do a series of just people finding all the music that had been sampled because I'm
yeah,
from what I know and from what I've been told that a lot of James Brown music has been the most sampled of all music. And I'm like, I
yep,
want to go back and find all these little samples and people pulling back. Even
yeah,
Mustard. Like I went, they were even when the what is it, TV off came out and all that stuff was coming out. And I followed this Instagram page that was going back and telling you how the samples were made. And some of it's stuff played backwards and cut up and placed in a way where it's like, oh, this is an entirely different thing, but it's also something that was sampled. It's an old thing, but it's a new thing. So
yep.
like, yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and at some point I'm gonna try my best to sit down and try to find some of these samples and just start connecting the dots and saying, oh, did you know it was from this, but it's from this, but it's also from this. Because I think actually one of the most favorite ones that I like that is one of the hotter songs when I was in college. It's Little Usher's Little Freak.
Okay.
It's but the background music is from Stevie Wonder, A Day in a Life. Stevie Wonder. It's one of those songs.
Okay.
It's one of those. It's one of those. And I'll find it. I might throw it in on the back end as the intro. Yeah. But it was a. I mean, it was a. I'm like, yo, I love me some old school music. I grew up on old school music.
Me
My
too.
parents like we going on road trips from Maryland to Virginia to South Carolina to wherever we're going. We're throwing on old school music. So when I started hearing some of that stuff in current music, and I'm like, oh, I like this song that much more because it came from somewhere
It's familiarity.
familiar. It brings back memories. It brings back all these things that you didn't know you had in your brain somewhere.
Bro, it's crazy that you say that because I think even though I didn't grow up playing music, I think I've always been around music. My mom and my dad would what they would do because I grew up on oldies too.
Mm-hmm.
They would test me on records in the car and in places. Who is this? Who is that? So my Rolodex of sounds, and sometimes even if I can't remember the artist, I know the melody.
Yep.
I remember, so I remember things, and I'm able, even with sampling, I'm able to hear it, and I'm like, that sounds like something.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind is always in the process of like figuring, and I'm like, and I don't, even though I don't sample a lot in my music, I play most of the things.
Mhm.
I'm like, I think that sampling is like, uh, sampling is an art in its own. It's an
Yeah.
art in its own, and it might seem easy, but it really isn't when it comes to like how many times you could chop up a song and like make it tasteful. Because I was watching this series the other day, and London on the Track basically said, he was giving some feedback to some producer uh on this competition show, and he basically was like, I'm gonna keep it raw and real with you. He was like, it was cool what you did, but he was like, if you're not making it better than what the original sounded like, he was like, it don't mean nothing. So he was like, you need to go back in and you need to like, so I'm really like curious about that stuff, like taking a sample and like how can we actually make this better?
Yep. And I've been hearing some recent stuff that it's like you pulled that from LL Cool J, and that song that you made is not good. Song worse. You need to chill.
You
But
need to go back.
there's also and there's another level to this. Like I'm trying my best these days to not be so critical of new music. I'm trying because there are times where I'm listening to people and I'm like, what am I listening to?
Bro,
What is
I
this
don't
new sound?
I understand that, but let's just keep it G and keep it 1000. There's a lot of hot garbage out.
Yeah,
Like,
man, hot,
there's there's a
hot,
lot of hot
dripping garbage these days.
there's a lot of hot garbage out. Like,
Oh
so
my goodness. And
in terms of in
I'm
ter-
just afraid that I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to turn into the old fogey. Like, oh, you young niggas don't know nothing about this.
nah, it's not even that. It's just like it's not even about turning into no old like critiquer about music, but it's just like when something hit your soul and when it don't.
Yeah,
I
100%.
mean, especially if we trying to, and obviously when we talking about modern music, we sure like your Lucky Days, your Leon Thomas, your Hers and stuff. Like obviously, when we're talking about like live musicians and stuff like that, that's a different arena from like the hip hop though.
Right.
Like I mean, it all encompasses, but I feel like, all right, like if we're comparing all the things, sure, like I think a lot of hip hop could encapsulate all those elements as well, live and everything.
Mhm.
But you have different forms and you have different subs and stuff. Just like earlier, we were talking about like, was that today or yesterday? We were talking about like drill. Like I was watching this competition series with these producers, and because the series I believe is taking place in either New York, I believe, or Atlanta, um, a lot of the producers were from New York, and like it was either a bunch of the production during the competition was very sample heavy, or it was very drill heavy.
Mhm.
And like drill, obviously we know that sound. Like obviously because you got UK drill, you got drill is not new, but it's like you hearing all those bass glides and everything. And it's like, all right, this is cool. And the way the hi-hats is moving, but it's like honestly, I only want to hear that shit so much.
Right.
Excuse
Yep.
my
Give
French,
me something
but
new. Give me something new.
I honestly only want to hear that so much. I don't want to hear albums and albums of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, give me a
Like,
few songs, give me a few tracks, make them hot. Don't
yeah,
give me a whole album of the same thing because
yeah,
I'm going to get bored.
yeah.
I'm going to check out on you because
I think
I'm not trying to get new music and one person I've always listened to and he's kind of consistent but he jumps around a little and Ludacris. I love Ludacris. I'm going to
okay.
listen to a Ludacris album from
Ludacris is dope.
start to finish and if I don't like stuff, I'm not going to listen to that stuff. I can get through an album of Ludacris the first two, three, or four times and be like, all right. And then for a fifth time through, I'm like, all right, now I like this one, I like this, I like that, I like this. And I'm gonna kind of skip through certain things that I didn't like.
Yeah,
I get to an album and I'm skipping through, okay, I heard that one, okay, I've heard that one, okay. I don't want to listen to it. If I get to the sixth one, I'm already skipping the seven. I'm okay, all right. Next album, what we doing?
But the other thing too is that I think, how can I say this? We're just the whole climate of where we're at musically is different, even in terms of our listening experience.
Mhm.
Like back in the day, people were forced to listen to stuff because of the vinyl aspects or tape.
Yeah.
Who wanted to really hit that button to like skip forward or move the vinyl to not know exactly where you're gonna hit the mark.
Right.
Like, so it's like you like people's listening experiences
Attention
were
spans. Attention spans have just shortened completely.
shortened, and like we're in a time where we getting 1 minute and 45-second songs and 2 minute songs, and like that's people's formula a lot of times. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because sure, like, but then also with that being the formula, a lot of times what we're seeing is a lot of the components that made us like songs from back in the day are not present. So when we talk about that, a minute and 45, there's no bridge in that.
Right. Yeah.
There's no bridge. The bridge was taking us somewhere that in the music that was changing the
It was,
monotony. It
yep.
was
It was touching.
changing it to take it somewhere different and like actually bring us back in to that realm, like after this moment in time. So
And
there's
I mean, you kind of see that. I mean, I'm not to cut it. You see that now, and I see that across the board in all media. I've seen that in movies. I've seen that in TV shows, and it's like even with these remakes, it's like you're
dude,
making movies and you're sucking all of the
life.
joy out of what we enjoyed about the original movie to make this new thing just to make a few dollars. It's like, okay, now I am not enjoying these movies. I'm like the poltergeists of the new recent years.
And
Not
not to play neutral in this, but like when you say that, I totally agree with you. I agree with you, and that has been my thought about it as well. But I guess that would be the same comparison with sampling, like with how older cats feel about sampling when they're like we had all this good music. Why do you want to go and chop up a sample and do this? Like, and they don't understand. So I also think there's, how can I say, there's some gaps in the matrix where generations don't want to adapt to things as well. But I also think you're absolutely correct. Some stuff does not need to be remade.
yep,
Like
yep,
some stuff is like it was a classic. Why are we redoing this?
yep. And I enjoy when people say you can't touch it. Like my favorite movies, Back to the Future. I love all time travel
Back
movies.
to the Future.
They're
Yeah, bro. That
saying
was
you are not allowed to touch this at
mhm.
all. There won't be another one. There won't be a fourth movie. There won't be a remake. There won't be nothing. As long as it's in the hands of the people that have it, you can't touch it.
And that's funny that you bring that up. Like I think like since I was a kid, like one of my things was always RoboCop and Batman.
Oh, yep. Yep.
But Batman specifically, I don't know what my obsession was, but I think it was because he was a regular guy that,
Regular guy beat people down, like
yeah.
giving people the business.
And some people, some people be like, why you like him? Like he some rich guy like going to beat up people. And I'm like, well, it's not that. It's the fact that he doesn't have to do that, and he's rich,
Mhm.
and he's trying to defend the regular man. So it's just like I
Yep.
think like I'm a huge Marvel fan. Huge Marvel. DC, we waiting to get these some good content from DC.
Please don't get me started. DC Marvel, how they are operating in their lives when it comes to just creating a universe.
Yeah.
Like I think right now, and we are totally off of our topic. We talking now. I'm telling you, if there is an opportunity for Marvel to just really stick to a storyline and they need, and I was telling my friend this the other day, DC and Marvel need to find one show that is the underlying storyline for the entire universe.
Yeah.
They did it. Marvel did it, but Marvel did it with Agents of Shield. Agents of
Okay.
Shield lightly touched on all the things that happened in all the movies when Thor came in, and when Iron Man came in, and the New York takeover and the time travel. They touched all of the things, but they weren't directly connected to it because they didn't want to be. They were the Netflix TV show, or they were the low budget. It's like, okay,
All right, I'm glad you bringing this up because I wouldn't even have known that because I'm not about to pay for Disney Plus. Like I'm not paying all of these different streamers to watch all this content. Like that's crazy to me.
yeah,
I'm not about to be nickel and dime for $100 to basically be paying cable again for
yep.
all of these different platforms. Like I'm not doing that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go to the movies and I'm gonna see the core things. And
Mm-hmm.
if I miss anything, then I just miss it. But
And
I'm not.
that's where they're messing up right now. I think they are assuming that people will go back and watch certain episodes of shows or certain movies or certain because they're just doing it because okay, so they're now because from my research and from what I've looked and seen, they're doing this thing where they're restructuring where you don't necessarily have to watch that stuff. They trying to give you an overview, but that kind of shortchanges the movie because that takes up time in the movie. So I don't know how at this point I don't even know how they fix it outside of having this one show that kind of touches on all the things, and you can get at any point in time you can get any big movie Marvel character on a TV level and get the same quality.
But the
That
other thing that they're doing is like the other thing that the streamers are doing is creating like tier systems where it's like if
oh
you want access to this content, you gotta pay more. Or
yeah
like you can't just be on Netflix or not even Netflix. Let's do Peacock. You can't just be on Peacock. You buy Peacock, but you're gonna get these ads now.
yeah
Or you purchase Netflix and you got the basic thing, you're gonna get all these ads now. So
yeah
now it's like watching regular TV. So now you got the ads, but if you want to see the premium content, now we're upselling you.
yep
Now
yep
every platform is doing that.
yep. And we I mean we're essentially playing like right now I think I have like three services. I got HBO. I've got the Hulu, but I got the Hulu through my Verizon. So it's Hulu, the ESPN, Disney, and
Oh,
some.
okay.
And so they kind of package, and then from there, off the record, we got
Hmm.
friends who got other things, and we trying
Yeah.
to figure it out how
Yeah.
to do the thing
Make
we do when we do it.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it is what it is, and I think at some point there will be people will be circling back around to doing the cable thing, and it will be it'll be different than how it was because all these at the end of the day all these entities are owned by the same companies.
Yeah.
They want us to buy Disney Plus and Hulu, and they're all owned by the same thing.
Like Charter.
Why are you trying to separate them? Why are you trying to separate them
Charter.
but also bring them together to make us pay more money to see it? Anyway, but also
Charter. Charter.
even back to the DC, I think DC tried to rush and try to keep up with Marvel at the beginning when they did the DC what is it the Snyderverse and all that. They tried to rush and say, oh, here are all your heroes in this PDF. That was weird. That was really weird.
Yeah.
That was goofy. But they will. I think they will figure it out over time. And I think this new movie with Superman, I don't even know the name of Superman Legacy. I think from there they can probably start a new thing. I don't even know where they would go when it comes to the Batman character because Batman you can't have Justice League without Batman. Batman is like almost a founder of Justice League. So eventually they'll come together and figure it out. But it might be 10 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But listen, man, we had a great conversation. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about where you're going, where you started, where you're going.
Yeah.
What's the next thing on your agenda? What you got coming up next? Other than your idea, what you got coming up next?
Uh wow. Obviously, uh a lot of stuff in terms of the business is coming together in terms of like us and ad agencies. So
Okay.
I'm excited about that. We'll be releasing a lot of our own music.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done like 2 or 3 shows this year. So we're crossing things off of off of our list.
Right.
Um I think I'm just excited. I'm excited about the idea, obviously.
Yep.
I think that's one of the biggest things. But outside of that, I think just completing records that have been like kind of, I don't want to say getting caught behind, but I think being at a point and being excited about, I think building community right now has been exciting because uh I think God is kind of just directing people and attracting people to us and to
Mhm.
me. So I think things are kind of like naturally falling in place, which is also confirmation that I'm
Doing it.
doing
Yep.
the right thing. So I think there's a lot of things like in motion. There, it's not one linear thing, and I feel like that goes back to like us as creatives. Like we live in such a unique space that it's never just one thing.
Yep.
Like it's never just one thing, even though like one thing might be the focus, like, oh, I'm music, you're film and television, but it's like there's multiple things happening at once. And these most like one thing can trigger another thing and cause a domino effect. So it's kind of like, like going back to my story earlier, like I was in that program. Obviously, a lot of these things live in the world of music, but they don't technically, how can I say, they don't technically go together.
Right.
Like music licensing is a thing of its own, obviously, which is facilitating the license of music being used.
Right. Okay.
Music supervision is a whole different angle of that. Like, and then creating the music is a whole different angle of all of that. It has nothing to do with that, with either of those things. That's just another avenue to get the music to like do something. But in all honesty, none of those things go together. And then when we talk about having a studio and stuff, that goes with the music making process, but it has nothing to do with the other two things. So it's
Yep.
like it like you never know how the sparks might like fire off, like because of the multiple things you do. So I'm just grateful to be in a position to I'm grateful to be in a position to be executing on these ideas. And I feel like what I've been saying and kind of like reflecting on like a lot has been like, wow, like there were times when I was waiting to be where I am right now, and not like I'm just like at this level of like I'm where I want to be, my finances and all that, but no, there was a time when I was like I just want to be able to create like all the time.
Yep.
Like I want to be in a position to be able to create. And obviously our wants and our needs never stop, are never ending. Like
Right.
those gonna constantly be changing, as we evolve as people and whatnot. But to I'm grateful for where I am in the moment, but I'm also grateful for the insight that I have of where I'm going and where I'm heading next. So like yeah, so I
So
think
let's amplify that magnet and get you some more production and get you some more work. Where can people
man,
find you, bro?
oh, so people can find me at YBTHEPROPHET on everything. That's YB the Prophet. You can find me personally on there, but you also can find me at Sync Collective Music, which is SYNCOLLECTIVE Music. And that is our music licensing agency. And if you just want to tip over the top and find our production songwriting team, that is going to be Music by Duality. So music by DUALITY. And that is cut and print.
Hey man, I'm glad you got your shit out there. We're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep doing what we do. And that was
Absolutely.
another episode of
Another one.
my
Another one.
conversation corner with my boy Blake, my boy Yousef Blake. And I want you guys to follow me on all my social medias and my conversation corner on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I hope
Hey.
to see you guys in another episode. Like and subscribe. See y'all later.